this right here definitely did not go the way she expected it to go.
Nothing but articles after articles after articles. He has expressed hatred for half of the country.
Those articles?
It doesn't matter. Look
and it's
at
not.
him. Because the bottom line is...
That right there would be Charles Payne basically laying into Fox News' Jessica Tarloff. Now, we will play the full exchange here in a second, and then something that Kellyanne Conway said right there towards the end that I thought was really important. But guys, I want you to know right now that this right here was originally a video that was supposed to be a bigger project, as in why you don't want to attack voters because of what Jamie Dimon said the other day on CNBC. But before we get to that particular comment, I do want to address something really quick. And of course, this is going to be relevant to the video itself because obviously it's a part of the overall thing. If I am gone for 7 days in the next week, it is because YouTube chose to give me a community guideline strike. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, YouTube obviously chose to remove another video. It was the video that I did on conservatives, or at least conservatives possibly owning Gen X, Gen Z. Basically meaning that Generation Z looks to be more conservative, at least in the future, as far as the data is concerned. YouTube chose to remove that video, as you guys are seeing here. I did appeal it, and even though there was no bad language in the video or anything that could have gotten me strike after I appealed, YouTube still struck it down anyways. Now, am I hurt by this? No, I'm not, because quite frankly, the video, I had a feeling that one of these videos that quite frankly was a project would need to go on Rumble, so therefore it is on Rumble. Maybe that right there is a real reason why it was they struck that video. I really and truly don't know. But just know right away that if there is a 7-day period where I'm completely offline, it's because of that very reason, which of course this video right here could also get struck as well, because for whatever reason, YouTube is starting to strike videos that normally don't get struck, at least as far as like what violates their community guidelines standards. I'm still trying to figure out how that one did it, but either way, that video is on Rumble at this moment in time. Now, with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get into it. And of course, we'll be sewing that up at the very end because it is relevant to exactly the topic that we're giving at hand. So, for a long time, we've been dealing with MAGA is extreme right. MAGA is a problem. And of course, you've got a current president that has said things like this here.
Lincoln or Jefferson Davis, this is the moment to decide, to defend our elections, to defend our democracy. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
That's only two things, okay? He's also demanded people go get the poke, and he's also signed an executive order, which the Supreme Court got involved with. And you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, who is way more divisive? And of course, they try to do this. They try to use this type of shtick to go after Republicans, at least Donald Trump anyways. But there's a bigger, much broader thing going on here that I think a lot of people are not thinking about when it comes to this overall topic of attacking voters. When we tend to think of those voters getting attacked, we tend to think of a comment like this here from back in 2016.
You can put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. But that other basket of people are people who feel the government has let them down, the economy has let them down, nobody cares about
Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables talk. Now, guys, I did leave the rest of what she said, or most of what she said. I did that so that way you guys would know that I'm not trying to mislead anyone. But the thing is this right here. That right there was the headline. And CNN, the mainstream media, did not try to spin it in her favor in any way. They did not try to spin it out. As a matter of fact, Hillary Clinton would later on double down on it. She probably did it because the media was not spinning it. You see, the rule in politics is that when you actually attack something or somebody or you say something, you double down on it. Let's go back in time to Mitt Romney's 47% comment. A lot of people kept on saying that Mitt Romney basically blasted 47% of the country. In reality, and like I said, you notice I said Romney because a lot of this is going to be going back to 2012 because this right here is where it really and truly started at. A lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, went ahead and took that comment and thought that, like I said, he was blasting 47% of the country. When in reality, what he was doing was he was blasting 47% of the Obama voters. He basically made the exact same mistake that Hillary Clinton made. That was the actual headline. So why in the world did the mainstream media not include the rest of it? Well, it's because it's an overall media agenda. It's not just the Democratic Party agenda. I actually agree with Bill O'Reilly. I don't really agree with Bill O'Reilly on a lot, But I actually agree with Bill O'Reilly when he says that he feels that the DNC is actually an arm of the mainstream media. In a lot of ways, the RNC, the Republican National Convention, is also an arm of the mainstream media in a way. The reason why I'm bringing up Mitt Romney, however, and what he said was because the overall goal at that time was to attack a certain section of conservative voters. That right there being the Tea Party movement, those people who came out and voted in 2010, mostly in protest of Obamacare and the constant spending. These right here are what we call infrequent voters. They wouldn't show up and vote every single election cycle. I'm not saying this to upset anybody on the Tea Party side because obviously I'm somebody who's in that camp. We did not show up every single election cycle to vote because a lot of times we didn't think that the current president or person we were voting for would actually do anything to change the system. This is one of the main reasons why it is people say that 2016 was the Tea Party's revenge when Donald Trump won. But the thing is this right here. These types of assaults, these types of attacks on Tea Party Republicans would continue into Obama's second term. There was even the incident where the IRS was targeting Tea Party conservatives and Tea Party groups. So that right there is to be expected when it comes to MAGA. Of course, we've also seen cases where the IRS and even the FBI have infiltrated such organizations as the Catholic Church and other churches as well. Because, let's be honest, a good portion of MAGA is also evangelicals. Like I said before, I know this, I'm an evangelical myself, so therefore I can definitely speak to this. But it's always a bad idea, and it's definitely in bad taste to attack the voters themselves, as Jamie Dimon warned Democrats the other day. Let me go ahead and roll this.
You know, and if you travel this country, you know, and the country's unbelievable. We took our bus trip this year, and Leslie Picker was on Spokane and Boise and Bozeman. People are growing. They're hungry to grow. They're innovating. It's everywhere. It's not just Silicon Valley. So we've got this great hand. But when people say MAGA, they're actually looking at people voting for Trump, and they think they're voting, and they're basically scapegoating them, that you are like him. But I don't think they're voting for Trump because of his family values. And if you look, just take a step back, be honest. He was kind of right about NATO, kind of right about immigration. Mm-hmm. He grew the economy quite well.
China virus.
Tax reform worked. Mm-hmm. He was right about some of China. I don't like what he did.
No, I said China virus.
Yeah, I understand. He may have been right. And I don't like how he said things about Mexico. I don't like, but he wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues. And that's why they're voting for him. And I think people should be a little more respectful of our fellow citizens. And when you guys have people up here, you should always ask the why. Not
Jamie Dimon, by the way, did vote for Joe Biden. He is a Democrat, and he did support Joe Biden. Now, if somebody on that side is saying that, that means that they're obviously a little bit wary of the direction of the country. Does that mean that they suddenly won't vote for the Democrat or the Democrat incumbent? No, it does not mean that at all. What it does mean is that he is beginning to get tired of all the pointless attacks. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, dude, you attack the woke left all the time. Yeah, I attack the woke left because the woke left, quite frankly, is already gone. Of course, at the exact same time, not only are they gone, the people themselves are already gone. They've already accepted a certain ideology, and they don't show any signs of coming out. So until they actually come out of that little phase that they're in, I'm probably going to continue to double down on my attacks. It's the woke left, for the most part, that attacks Republicans en masse. However, the Democrats themselves are attacking Republicans en masse like crazy, and they say such things as MAGA are a bunch of cultists, and they say stuff like, well, MAGA, not only are they a bunch of cultists, but they're a bunch of evil fascists, without even acknowledging the fact that fascism itself is actually inherently left-wing, a lot like National Socialism and communism itself. It's all really and truly the same thing. All you got to do is just go pick up Marx, and you'll see the actual similarities between Marx, Gentili, and, of course, eventually Adolf Hitler. And, of course, this also extends to the days of the Soviet Union. It's been going on for a very long time, but don't worry, we'll do a much, much bigger project on that. And, of course, as I've explained on multiple occasions, stuff like racism and stuff is actually more left-wing, or the leftists are the actual true ones, because they want to be able to separate rather than assimilate. It's part of the reason why so many people in cities vote Democrat, because they think that Democrats will obviously just give the other side whatever they want in hopes that it will keep their mouths closed, when they don't actually work on the actual problems or actually try to fix the common roots of what's actually at the very, very core of why people feel the way they do. This is also very familiar because the Democrats themselves have almost, for the most part, completely, and I mean completely, disengaged when talking to Republicans themselves. I mean, at one point in time, we used to have this conversation where conservatives and classical liberals could just joke with one another and have a good time. But for the most part, still, like I said, have a good time, drink a beer, have a conversation, and walk away. We are no longer at that at this point in time, and that right there is one of the main reasons why you got people like Tim Pool and so many others trying to take advantage of this, constantly screaming civil war. Of course, there's also a border crisis, and of course, there's a situation on the Texas border where the National Guard has gotten involved, even though the Supreme Court has struck that down. But of course, Greg Abbott continues to go forward with that, and people think this matter could lead to an incident. But once again, though, this is a part of their narrative. They did this back in 2012 when they actually began to attack certain voters. The Biden administration is a little bit more open on how they are doing it. But if you guys remember the Philadelphia speech, okay, and I'm showing you guys, not really clips, but I'm showing you guys just photos from it. Obviously, it looked extremely divisive. It looked like he was openly about to attack the people themselves. The red light, the way Biden is standing, of course, the Marines in the background, is in Philadelphia, which, by the way, we'll have a little bit more of that, talk a bit more about that in the next video. The thing is this right here. The day after, he chose to walk it back. Now, in Hillary Clinton's case, when she said the deplorables comment, she eventually doubled down. Biden walked it back. This right here is called mixed signals. Nobody knows what in the world is actually being said or what the hell the real true intentions are at this administration. So when I play for you guys this little clip from Charles Payne, yeah, I'm pretty sure that Charles Payne is also responding to every bit of the rhetoric that the Biden administration is given, even though the rhetoric, while very, very boisterous and very, very, let's just say, full of bluster, and of course this is obviously what they want to intend to do, it's going to evoke a response like what you're about to see.
You know, Charles, you talked about the issues here and how immigration here is at the top, but it also is an economic issue, and it crosses all boundaries. And it is a weakness for President Biden and the Democrats. Dean Phillips talks about this on the trail, and he talks about how Democrats demean MAGA voters. He talked about it with me today, saying that, you know, it's just strange that they're talking about a group of voters like that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's narcissism. I think if it's, you've lived in New York long enough, you know it's maybe a New York thing. Someone punches you, you punch him back harder. That's the way I grew up in Harlem.
Not if the country's at stake, right?
He became president of the United States with that same personality. I don't think that, you know, listen, I think it's worse with Biden calling MAGA. Biden's anger and vitriol and hatred for MAGA is far more worse than President Trump's individual battles with someone who crosses him. That is something that is really detrimental to this country, that the president of the United States despises half of the United States. President Biden, I said earlier today, about a week ago, I had a segment coming up, so I Googled Biden hates MAGA. Nothing but articles after articles after articles. He has expressed hatred for half of the country. Who's
writing those articles?
It doesn't matter. Look
and it's
at
not.
him. Because the bottom line is he says it. He has vitriol for them. And so does MSNBC, and so does CNN, and so does the New York Times. They have vitriol for half of the nation. They don't look at them like fellow Americans, and it's unfortunate. They try to paint them as racist. All the things that they do to their fellow Americans who simply want a safe home, a safe community, for their children to have prosperity. They want the same thing, but they demean them all the time. That's why I think Phillips was so intriguing, because he went to a rally to find out for himself. And guess what? Golly, these are some pretty cool people. They're just like us.
Exactly what Jamie does.
If you just simply had a conversation, if you just simply talked to said individual, if you just talked to the other person and asked him what the deal was. Now, remember, and there was this little bit, and don't worry, I'll leave this video from Black Conservative Perspective in the description box, because he had the actual comments from Jennifer Rubin, Dave Rubin's sister, by the way, where she basically just goes on this rant that conservatives are just all a bunch of conspiracy theorists, and they scream and holler in your face, when this is actually the exact opposite. It's normally the liberals who are constantly screaming and hollering in people's face. I mean, these right here are the people who actively go out of their way to censor people. And I want to go ahead and say this really quick to kind of tie in what I said at the very beginning of the video about my community guideline strike. The reason why I made the video on conservatives looking, or the Generation Z looking conservative in the future, should have been a warning to liberals. What do they do? They scream, they raise hell, they holler, they get upset about the fact that you just criticize them. You're trying to help them out, but they don't want to accept it. That's why we have free speech in this country. We have free speech so that way we can debunk bad ideas and have an actual honest-to-God dialogue. That's the real reason why we do it. The thing is this right here, the left right now at this point in time doesn't want to hear any criticism. They want to just go on about their merry way and not be criticized at all. And they just want to scream and holler about things, and they won't accept any form of criticism. The video, by the way, was in fact, should have been taken as a warning, especially given the fact that I gave actual studies and facts to show this. What did they do? Somebody got upset, they had you removed, or they had the video removed. I think it's best that what you should have done was probably commented in the comment section, and you could have just hit a dislike or the like button. Fact of the matter is, the left does not want to have a conversation with you. As a matter of fact, let me go and say one more thing too. A big portion of MAGA, and I mean a big portion of MAGA, is actually former Democrats and people who were a part of the leftist cult. They left because they realized it was becoming a great big giant echo chamber. That right there is one of the main reasons why is that MAGA has gotten bigger since Donald Trump has actually gotten out of office. More and more declared voters. Now, I played a part of that there, the Charles Payne part. Well, let me go ahead and play the rest of it for you.
And it's smart to understand. And also you see the shift that's happening, right? You look at black voters, Hispanic voters, college women, Latinos who have moved towards Trump.
Yes.
So it's no longer that people are in these boxes based on what their gender is or what they look like. They appear to want, a safe country, and they appear to want a good economy, regardless of what label they have.
That's completely fine, and I know that the lines have shifted dramatically, but Joe Biden's responsible for a lot of that. You say that he's demeaned half the country. First of all, it's 74 million people that voted for Donald Trump, and he is explicit every time he talks about the MAGA movement to say that this is a subsection of the Republican Party, which is borne out in elections when you see people voting against Donald Trump. And this idea that
but what about the people voting for him? What about the people voting for him? He gives teleprompter speeches. I mean, you have to understand that it's...
but he is talking about insurrectionists. Yes, he is.
No.
Why is he talking about January 6th? And he says
MAGA like it's a swear word, instead of a slogan.
If you get called regularly,
he's the
which
president
Democrats
of the United
do,
States.
Thugs,
he's the commander-in-chief.
pedophiles.
Why can't he call the border a crisis while he's denigrating and castigating Americans? No, the voters are talking about that, Jessica.
But
excuse me,
point is about demeaning voters.
The president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, went to Philadelphia a year and a half ago with a Marine posted behind him.
I saw.
And gave a decidedly political speech where he insulted a large part of the country. And I've said many times on this network, and I'll say it again tonight, if people, a lot of people, spend a fraction of the time that they spend obsessing over Donald Trump, the person, learning one thing about the Trump voter, things may be very different. This is Joe Biden's version of Hillary's deplorable.
Yeah, somebody's going to say it's Fox News. And Fox News polling, of course, is notoriously bad. But still at the same time, it kind of goes in line with a lot of the other polling out there that is suggesting that the former president will win in 2024. The thing is this right here, one side of the aisle is not accepting criticism, while the other side of the aisle is constantly being criticized. And that right there is where we're getting in this situation where you're asking yourself a question, when are the attacks going to stop? Well, the thing is this right here. My personal belief is that the left is going to attack so much to the point to where they're not going to have a leg to stand on. Let me break it down for you like this. I was reading a book a long time ago. Actually, I still own the copy of the book, and it was written by an evangelical, where they say a Christian apologist, by the name of Ravi Zacharias. Now, some people may have a problem with Ravi, especially given revelations that occurred at the very end of his career, but it was a book called The End of Reason. It was an answer to Sam Harris. And, of course, he made a lot of very, very good points in that book about Christianity, God, and, of course, the overall thinking of the liberal atheist. Like I said, I'm not here to criticize liberal atheists in this video or anything like that. I'm just simply here to make some points. One of the things that Ravi Zacharias said was that if you find yourself in a mudslinging contest, that after a while, the person who's slinging the most amount of mud will eventually lose the foundation of which they're standing on. The person who realizes it's a great big giant joke, they eventually just stop slinging mud, and therefore they've got something to stand on. Whereas the person who constantly slings the mud, after a while, eventually gets to the point where they have nothing more to stand on. Which then leads me to this next thing, which came from former Congressman Dean Phillips, who is running against Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. Let's pay attention to this.
Crisis of participation. And I got to tell you guys, I went to a Donald Trump rally a couple nights ago. Never been to one. I had an event across the street. I saw the line of people waiting in the cold for hours. And I thought, what the heck? I'm going to be a leader who actually invites people, doesn't condemn them. Met probably 50 Trump people waiting in line. Every single one of them, thoughtful, hospitable, friendly, all of them so frustrated that they feel nobody's listening to them but Donald Trump. A diverse crowd, people who had never been to a Trump event before. My party is completely delusional.
They are delusional. What he is trying to say is that most of the Democratic Party has finally, let's just say, they have gotten themselves into a place where it's basically a great big giant echo chamber. And I want to tell you right now, It's not really so much Donald Trump that they really hate. It's actually you, the people. There's something about you that they just don't like. I did a video a while back on the incident in Ohio where a father had to shoot a guy, his daughter's ex-boyfriend, through the door. And of course, they did an interview with the next door neighbor, and the next door neighbor basically gave off the indication that the father should not have had a gun. The vast majority of these people who are pro-gun control, for example, they are not in favor of guns being collected. What they're in favor of is your right to own a gun being curtailed. That's what it is. It's a discontent for you. It's a discontent for you, the person. That's how they typically tend to make their decisions. That right there is the truth of the situation. And when Donald Trump came around, it just simply set these people off. The evidence, the explosion was about to occur. He just simply lit the fuse. That right there is where this fire really and truly came from. It's one of the reasons why it is that I keep looking at some of these people and I keep thinking to myself, a lot of these people are gone because they've been brainwashed by the media. They've been conditioned to completely dislike and not like someone. Okay, it kind of goes back to the whole you can't accept criticism. Go back to what I was saying about YouTube removing a video. Obviously, I made that video so that way people would catch on, people would look at it, including people on the left, so that way they could dispute what I was saying. And I didn't really make it that hard for them. I just cited a couple of studies which they should have been able to actually debunk, which they probably could not. But a very smart person on the left would be able to debunk this. But instead, what do? They got mad and they demanded the video be removed, which I'm pretty sure is what the hell happened in this case because there wasn't misinformation in it. And they struck it down very quickly. I've been through this thing before. Normally, if somebody demands it gets taken down, that's normally what happens. It's probably because you said something they disagreed with. Instead of actually having a dialogue with you, they demanded it be removed. That's how these people really and truly operate, and they've been conditioned to do this. However, there is a white pill here, and the white pill is this right here. People are starting to see, and people are starting to learn, and people are, as Martha McCallum said, they are beginning to shift over to the other side because they are tired of the constant attacks and they're tired of the echo chamber. Ask yourself a question. How many people do you work with or how many people do you associate with that actually think a little bit differently than you do? I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find a lot of people. And that right there is what people are waking up to. They're waking up to the reality that one side is constantly attacking the other. And they're not just doing it in person. They're doing it across the media. And that right there is what's fueling these, this attitude. With that right there being said, guys, I want to give you guys one quick update to kind of go back to the beginning of the video, and then we're going to go ahead and close this video down. But as I said before, people are starting to wake up, and people are starting to see exactly what's going on, and people are coming over. What I was saying earlier about the video being removed from YouTube, if I'm gone for 7 days, that right there will be the 7-day catalyst, of which, by the way, that I would then disappear, and I would come back, and you would see nothing but video essays going forward. That right there is what I would do in that 7-day period. Yes, the money would be, let's just say I wouldn't be making any money, but still at the same time, I'm not making that much money off of YouTube anyway, so therefore it would give me that time to actually do that. So just know that if I do get removed for 7 days, you'd probably get a video like this right then followed up by yet the actual video essays. Just throwing that out there so that way you guys know that if I got removed for 7 days, this is how I would actually come back. With that right there being said, guys, tell me what you think in the comment section. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.